Hello and welcome to the Media Play News Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Parkman.
And I'm co-host Charlie Sholey.
This week saw the release of Shazam, Fury of the Gods in theaters, and we're going to talk about what its reception may mean for the future of the superhero genre. Next, Netflix plans to dramatically expand its video game content library. Do you know Netflix has video games? Me neither. And last up, fans of Rocky 3 have a steelbook release available to pick up from Best Buy, so we'll be talking about the broader premium physical release space. Hey, Charlie. What did you get a chance to watch anything this week?
Somewhat. I had to significantly dumb down the stuff that I usually watch because I was just showing you right before we started recording. I went ahead and did it again. I've started another home renovation project.
That's your whole life now because you own a home.
This time, my guest bathroom has been demoed, and that took up my entire weekend. I had no energy for anything else. So what I watched was the full season of Perfect Match on Netflix, the reality show starring reality stars from other of Netflix's shows in their, reality connected universe.
Oh boy, hosted by Nick Lachey.
Yeah, like all the other shows they've been on. And it was just 9 episodes of watching a group of objectively hot psychopaths emotionally torment each other for a month. A+. Would watch again. And then I forgot to mention last week, but the second part of the new season of You had come out. So I watched that, and it was incredible because, just to recap my thoughts of the first half, I was saying that all the 3 previous seasons has just been some new stalker victim that the main character, Penn Badgley, follows around and tries to manipulate into falling in love with him. And this season was different in that he was trying to step away from the whole stalker thing. And so the setup for the season was, like I said, dramatically different. And here comes part 2, turning everything you thought you understood about the format of the show on its head and reframing everything about the story. And it did that for maybe 3 or 4 episodes in a row. So I think I watched the entire part 2 in one sitting with my fiance, and we were hooked the whole way through. So if you haven't seen You yet, I'm pretty sure season 4 got the highest viewing numbers that the show has seen up to this point on Netflix. And the only other stuff I saw was just revisiting some stuff I've seen before. The Denis Villeneuve Dune, which now that I can watch on my actual TV and not on a 13-inch laptop, looks awesome. And some Twin Peaks, actually, going way, way back, because I got the, gold box set from some random used movie store a long time ago. Never really had a chance to watch it. So I've seen a few episodes of it, and it's 90s David Lynch. There's nothing else like it. How about you?
I got up to the halfway point of The Last of Us. I have been endeavoring to get that finished. So I got up to, I guess, just under the halfway point because it's 9 episodes. So we finished episode 4, which is not a good episode to drop off of because it is a cliffhanger that leads directly into episode 5.
That's where they're in the city, right?
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah. I remember the exact part that episode 4 ends on. That's not a good one to stop.
No, it's not. And I was like, oh, man, I feel like we have to watch this next one. But the reason that we didn't immediately watch the next one is because I rewatched the first Shazam in anticipation of seeing Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, which we'll talk about in a moment. I was fine not rewatching it. My partner likes to see stuff. She likes to see things right before we watch the sequel. So,
yeah, I mean, Dune 2 comes out at the end of the year. And even though I just saw Dune, I will be watching it again in 7 months.
Well, right when the next 3.5 hours long. So
yeah, I can't wait. I wish it was 5.5 hours long.
Yeah, so I watched some of The Last of Us. I'm getting settled into the new place. So we got a bunch of stuff done. I did have to spend some time taking care of another personal issue, but we did take some time yesterday to start to catch up on The Last of Us. And when we decided we were going to see Shazam 2 today after this very recording, we decided to watch the first one. And it's good still. Shazam 1 is good. I definitely recommend it. But that's really all I got into. Last week was pretty busy. My band is going on tour this upcoming weekend. So I've been doing a lot of coordinating and planning for that, getting Airbnb sorted and things like that. You're
at the point where you don't have to practice for the show because you're just so skilled at playing a musical instrument. It comes to you naturally.
I would argue that, yes, I am. But I rehearse anyway because it's important for morale. But before we get into the news stories, this week's inspiration is Knob Creek Bourbon. It is their, just their straight bourbon. It's 9-year.
It's a reliable bourbon to get and was one of 2 whiskeys that the store I rushed out to when Charles texted saying, "Hey, I'm only 25 minutes away." I'm like, okay, got to go here. What do they have? Well, it's a good thing I like Knob Creek a lot because the other thing cost $5 more. And this thing that liquor bottles tend to do where to try and have a premium look to them, they'll like over design the bottle and stick a bunch of extra things on it. So it's not like a flat bottle with like a label. And just looking at it, you can tell like this is like an Ed Hardy of liquor bottles where for some reason it retails at a premium price. But I can just tell with my liquor spider sense that it does not have a premium taste.
Right. There's no way that is an exceptional level above the thing right next to it.
Yeah. So Knob Creek it is, which is great. I have no complaints.
Yeah, it's a known quantity. You're not going to go wrong with Knob Creek if you like bourbon.
Yeah. So it's basically the McDonald's of bourbons.
Yeah. You know what you're going to get and you're happy about it. You knew what you signed up for. All right. First up, New Line Cinema's DC Comics sequel Shazam! Fury of the Gods had a mediocre opening weekend, grossing an estimated $30.5 million in domestic box office revenue, about $5 million less than studio estimates. It's 44% lower than the first Shazam's movie debut. This release underscores ongoing concerns regarding the DC brand and the superhero genre in general. Interestingly, Disney CEO Bob Iger questioned mindlessly churning out superhero sequels at a recent investor event. We all know how Quantumania vanished from the news cycle not long after its debut. All this ties into Warner Brothers' bet on revitalizing the DC universe with James Gunn, and it's difficult to write it off when none of Gunn's projects have been released.
I threw in that last part because there is a lot of doom and gloom surrounding superhero movies, mostly perpetuated by people like me who are tired of them. But that's not to say that creators can't do cool stuff with them. Yeah. To wit, James Gunn and all the stuff he's outlined with what he's bringing to it. And just because Shazam 2 has a lackluster opening, it's also something that was well into production by the time Gunn came on board.
Interestingly, Peter Safran, who is also like co-leading DC's film projects along with James Gunn, did produce the first Shazam. I just noticed it in the credits while we were watching, and I believe also produced Shazam 2. I don't know if we can blame the quality of Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods on its box office, because there is that oversaturation of the market, primarily from Marvel. DC's been releasing maybe 2 films a year.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible that Marvel has gone and released 4 movies per year for the last 2 years, and Bob Iger is like, maybe we're releasing stuff too fast.
Plus
all the TV shows, all the specials.
It's so much. There is a glut of superhero content, and 90% of it has been coming from Marvel. So things like the stuff that DC's been putting out, which got reasonable criticism for its comparative quality at the time stuff was coming out. I do think that the Snyder Cut did regain some goodwill for the original vision of Justice League.
Yeah, for what it was, I thought it was good. Even though I don't want to see it again, it's cool that like a 4.5 hour long movie or whatever it was actually as good as kind of like it could have been.
Yeah, I think it accomplished its goal in a way that the theatrical release wasn't able to because of the circumstances. But like, you know, other projects like, because Aquaman and the first Shazam, Aquaman is also getting a sequel later this year that was also produced before this turnover of Safran and Gunn taking over. Both of them, in a comparative sense, did underperform, but were like reviewed pretty well. I haven't seen any reviews for Fury of the Gods. I've been avoiding them deliberately because I wanted to see it this weekend. Instead, I'm seeing it tonight. But I've managed to only be spoiled for one thing so far, which is better than every other movie I didn't see the day it opened. But Shazam is largely was kind of similar to Wonder Woman, was kind of a bright spot coming out of DC at the time, especially, you know, this is pre the Suicide Squad, and people really liked the general audience reception of the first Shazam was pretty positive. People enjoyed it. It's fun. It was very different from a lot of what DC had been doing up to that point. Aquaman was a little bit more mixed, but it is an overall enjoyable film that's very different from his appearance in Justice League. I think Fury of the Gods, like lackluster opening weekend, it has more to do with there just being so much superhero media that people are tired of it. Like Vin Diesel's Bloodshot or like whatever. Like that movie very much came and went very quickly. And I think if it had had the space to breathe without being flanked by 2 Marvel movies and a Marvel show at the same time, it may have gotten, because it kind of had a slightly boosted second life on streaming.
Yeah, I kind of see that happening with a couple of the underperforming superhero movies that have come out recently. So there's Black Adam, which came out in October, and it's already on HBO Max. Yeah. And then even quicker, Quantumania came out in February, I think. And there's rumors that it's going to come to Disney Plus in April. So less than a 2-month window.
I mean, that's been what Marvel's been doing. Because Wakanda Forever also hit
I don't remember it being that quick.
It was less than 3 months.
I could be wrong.
It was within 90 days that you could. Because I remember seeing it in theaters, and then less than 2 weeks later, seeing the announcement of when it would be on Disney Plus. And that movie came out in November?
Yeah.
And it's on Disney Plus now. That's not a huge gap.
Yeah. Well, when you're releasing stuff that quickly, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Black Adam, irredeemable. That one deserves everything, all the criticism it got.
Yeah, that's a little disappointing, even though I didn't see it. It's like The Rock hyped it up so much leading up. And he's like, I'm not taking steroids, unlike all those other Marvel actors. Everything you see is all me.
Look, you can just say Kumail Nanjiani. It's okay. We'll get it. There's no way that dude got that big that quickly. The thing with Black Adam is more an issue with The Rock as a brand. And that's kind of it's a separate conversation we can have about actors and building brands around themselves and how that impacts the roles that they take and things like that.
Yeah. Dwayne Johnson, as we know, is a big fan of this podcast. When we eventually have him on, we can dig into that.
Yeah, we're going to really interrogate what The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, the brand is versus Dwayne Johnson, the man. It'll be revolutionary in terms of media interviews.
I can see him sitting right where you are right now, taking up the entire width of the desk we're currently sitting at.
We'll be drinking his tequila. But yeah, it is interesting how steep the drop-offs were. And I think while there are valid criticisms of the quality of some of these movies, I do think that the saturation is the biggest thing. I think just the market is fatigued. A lot of people don't want to see a superhero movie every other month. It's just a lot. And blockbusters in particular, most AAA films that are released existing IP, and the MCU definitely counts as existing, even though like they're only loosely adapting comic book storylines sometimes. It's definitely like, oh, this is a franchise that's been around for a decade now, or for 15 years. So I think people are just tired of seeing them, and I think the shift for things like even like that, also like other action movies, I think the Fast franchise falls into that as well, where it's like, come on, man, we know what we're getting. This is the 10th one plus 2 spinoffs. Like we got it. But then something like, Top Gun, while it is a sequel, is so radically different from the other AAA films being released that it like has this runaway success because it's something that people haven't been seeing every 3 months for a decade. And I think that the success of a lot of A24's projects also speaks to that. Where it's like, people are doing something different. Another recent release, Creed 3 had the biggest opening of any sports movie ever. Granted, the second highest grossing sports movie, opening weekend, was also a Rocky film, but still, the idea that Ali, which was in theaters for 6 months, because that's how we used to do it, kids. Even adjusted for inflation, didn't make as much as Creed 3 already has. So I think that speaks to people looking for something else in the market. And it'll be interesting to see kind of how that shakes out.
Yeah, my last thought on this before we move on to the gaming on Netflix, which I know people are dying to hear about, is, on the one hand, I really wish I was all in on superhero stuff, because for the people that are, there is just a bottomless amount of content to be able to watch with all the shows and all the movies coming out.
Yeah, it's great.
It almost makes me think the superhero industry, the genre of movies, is just driven by the whale monetization strategy, where it's the majority of a company's profits are driven by a minority of its consumers. But much like how movies can do a lot of cool, weird stuff with a niche genre, say sci-fi, because, even though I'm into that, let's be real here, nobody likes sci-fi except for losers. You can also do really cool, unique stuff with superhero movies. One example is that old Michael B. Jordan movie, Chronicle. That's
Chronicle.
That one.
Josh Trank got him fan 4-stick.
Yeah. So that was a really cool movie, and it was low budget because the point wasn't huge bombastic superhero battles. It was just kind of, let's take real people and give them superpowers and then see what happens, because it's a personality driven storyline.
Yeah. They even pick telekinesis as the power, the least visual ability, in terms of you see two people fighting, at most they're going to be throwing stuff at each other. And so it does have the space to be this is a character study. This is Dane DeHaan killing it as a crazy weirdo.
Yeah. So it's for people that, hate is a strong word, but let's just say for people who hate the superhero genre like I do, it's I'm not apathetic about it. I still think about what's something I can get upset about with superhero movies today. It's because I want it to succeed deep down.
Yeah, there definitely is stuff. It's very similar to comics themselves, where it's there's the big two, and they're Marvel and DC. It's true in the books. It's true on the screen. But there are other people doing cool, interesting things. People really enjoyed Invincible, which is animated, released serially as a series. Great reviews. People love it. People are mad that season 2 is not already ready, forgetting how long animation takes. Movies like Chronicle, that do interesting things with the concept in a way that's not just I mean, even fundamentally, it is good guy with power versus bad guy with same power, but like does it in a way where like it's interesting seeing how the characters actually handle the situation, and it's not like this morally neutral, don't rock the status quo too much idea that a lot of the big budget DMC specifically tends to do. You know, you can say there's lots to be said about how Zack Snyder has, you know, approached the 3 films that he was involved with in the DC universe. But he was definitely doing something different. Was it all successful? Probably not. But like there are ways to approach it that don't feel samey in a way that like puts people off eventually. I get the impulse when 4 superhero movies from the same studio in a row make $1 billion. Like, I get it. But at a certain point, you're like, are we over milking this particular cow?
Yes and no. So let's move on to the next thing.
Speaking of over milking.
Yeah. So if you didn't know, there's games on Netflix.
If you didn't know, go back and listen to this podcast 7 months ago when they announced this.
So since Netflix launched games about a year ago, the streamer has released 55 titles on their service, and they're set to add 40 more games this year, with 70 games currently in development and 16 games being developed by some of the streamers' in-game studios. So I just want to take a second to say that's obscene, but let's take a breath and move on, because there's a quote from their VP of External Games, Leanne Loom, who said, "Our goal is to develop a broad portfolio of games in different genres and formats, because we believe everyone can find joy in games if they discover the one, parenthetical, or many, ha ha ha, that is right for them." So Netflix does seem to be approaching this the same way they develop shows, in that they're going to develop everything, and not everything will appeal to everybody. The one commonality that all these games have is they're all mobile games, which I cannot stand. And to underscore this point, do you want to take a guess at what Netflix's most popular game has been, Charles?
I mean, I have.
If you weren't looking at the copy that I've written for you.
Or also the app itself and the game section.
You would never guess it in a billion years.
I absolutely would not.
Yeah, so their most popular game is Too Hot to Handle, Love is a Game, based on their dating show of the same name, Too Hot to Handle. I actually saw a trailer for this game, which starred 3 of the contestants, participants of Perfect Match, that, piece of garbage show that I saw earlier. They were just talking about the intro to the game, and it was just designing your character within the universe of Too Hot to Handle. And I swear, when I was watching this trailer, I started hearing the test pattern sound that like old cable TV would play. Like I can't wrap my head around the type of person who would enjoy playing this game, but lots of people like it apparently because it's their most popular game. But then I started looking into it a little bit more, and not all of Netflix's games are as surface level as this one. And also, like, as a side note, it is a little bit deeper than it would appear at first.
Yeah, there's some, scrolling through here, there's the ones that you pointed out here in the script. Like, scrolling through it, I'm like, there's some pretty like solid mobile games in here that are like apparently Netflix exclusive.
Yeah. So like what they did with this Too Hot to Handle game is they would just release new storylines in the game as new episodes would come out. So if you're invested in the show, that's kind of a cool thing to follow along.
It's another level of engagement.
Not that I would play it, but I respect the, game design aspect of that. And yeah, as Charles was saying, like just paging through the carousel of games that they have available, they have a couple like actual popular indie games that actual normal gamers like you and me have played. They have a mobile version of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, Shredder's Revenge.
Netflix exclusive mobile port of Shredder's Revenge, by the way. Shredder's Revenge is a great beat 'em up. I own it on the console, but it was crazy that not only is there a mobile port of it, but Netflix is the only one who's allowed to have it as of right now.
Yeah, they have the tactical game Into the Breach, which has sold tens of millions of copies. I've played it for hours on end. So the fact that I saw that on Netflix is kind of mind-blowing. And then they have this really popular indie game called Before Your Eyes, which relies entirely on having like a user-facing camera to be able to see whether or not they're blinking.
Sick.
Because the point of the game is, you're seeing your life flash before your eyes. So whenever you blink, the game is going to fast forward a little bit in like your character's life.
Interesting. Also, another thing that stood out to me is they have a mobile version of the card game Exploding Kittens, a card game I own. But just a fully functioning version of that game with online support. So you can play with other people. That's I don't know, maybe we're sleeping on Netflix gaming. Maybe we didn't take it seriously enough when they announced it.
Yeah, as a capital S serious gamer, I don't really pay that much attention to mobile games, but the mobile game market in terms of revenue completely dwarfs all other aspects of the video gaming industry.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody has a smartphone. So, of course, it's going to be the most popular thing. And given that Netflix is the largest streaming platform in the world, too, perhaps we should be paying more attention to their foray into gaming.
Yeah, I mean,
they've said multiple times the goal of the business itself is to take up all of your free time, which, yeah, sure, that sounds kind of sinister, but ultimately they're trying to entertain everybody who subscribes to them. So they go out and they shoot all this stuff for original shows and movies, and the next logical thing is to just go and make a bunch of games. And it would not surprise me if not far into the future, there's some reality show game crossover where the majority of players' actions dictate what the people in the show have to start doing.
Yeah, it could get dark real quick. I think the major blind spot of this for me is that I never watch Netflix on my phone. I have a television, but I understand that there are a lot of people for whom their mobile device is their primary point of media consumption, which I guess it technically is for me also, but I only for audio media. I listen to a lot of other podcasts, which you shouldn't listen to. You should only listen to this one. Yeah, I guess I would have never thought to look into it because it's not present as of yet. They don't have anything present within their console and television apps. So maybe if they start to, clearly it's successful enough that they're making a big push for the remainder of this year to produce more games for that platform. So maybe that's going to, maybe that leads to doing some stuff on higher profile stuff, Google Stadia could make it happen, but
you spoiled what I was going to say next. I was going to say, I'm calling it here. Once cloud gaming gets to the point where it, works,
makes sense to do,
is reliable, there will be a Netflix controller pushed out there, just like what Google is trying to do with their cloud gaming platform Stadia, like you just said.
Hey, Amazon Prime's also still trying to make it happen.
Yeah, so we will see. But I cannot write off Netflix gaming as much as I would have before
reading this article.
It's not all completely garbage shovelware.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
It's
it is
largely.
Absolutely mostly that, but not entirely.
Not exclusively.
They have Ninja Turtles as a game.
They have an exclusive port of the best Ninja Turtles game that's come out in the last 20 years.
But let's move on to our final story.
Yeah, so we've got a 4K Ultra HD copy of Rocky 3. This has been released in a limited edition steelbook at Best Buy. Up until now, Rocky 3 has only been available in 4K as part of a 4-film set. If you haven't seen this movie, Rocky fights Mr. T and exercises to the song Eye of the Tiger. And if you think it's strange that Rocky 3 has gotten a steelbook, that's because it's part of a longer releasing schedule of all 4 Rocky movies, and Rocky 4 will come next week.
How do you feel about steelbooks?
I dig them conceptually. I really like unique packaging for movies and games. I own a few steelbook releases of games, like the Mass Effect collection and Kingdom Hearts 3. I have steelbooks, like steel cases for those. They are slightly smaller than normal game cases, so they mess up the flow of the shelf.
Right, they need their own shelf.
Yeah, but it is like a cool idea. I don't own any steelbook DVD or Blu-rays as of right now. I will probably, like I said, like I've been saying all year, I'm on a push to get back into physical media in a big way.
I got a tip for you when you're finished up with that.
But I like them conceptually. Like I like unique packaging. I did have a transforming case for the first Michael Bay Transformers movie. The case turned into Optimus Prime.
Optimus Prime's head? I remember that.
Yeah. And that's still kicking somewhere in my parents' house. So I like it conceptually. I do like turning stuff into collectibles. And, if you're getting all that extra stuff anyway, why not also extend that to the packaging?
Right. It becomes kind of like a display piece.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, someone who's into movies, they're showing off how much they're into movies by having like a premium sort of, case for whatever they've bought. And if you think that's dumb, I invite you to turn around and look at the bookshelf behind you right now.
It's an audio medium. This is not for the audience. The door is closed, so I can't even see.
I'm talking to the person who's listening to this. But I am into it and also not, because I'll go through these waves of I like collecting a bunch of things and then I need to purge everything.
Tired of having stuff in your house.
Why do I have this? But I do have a couple steel books of movies just randomly picked up. I've got Live Free or Die Hard, steelbook release, which I bought when it was immediately released. So I was in high school back then. It was the first steelbook I ever saw, also at a Best Buy, coincidentally.
Yeah, there was a Best Buy exclusive DVD collection from about 10 years ago that I really wanted. I do currently own a Blu-ray set of Smallville, but about 10 years ago, they had a box DVD set that was in the shape of the Superman S. And it was like $200, so I didn't get it. But it was very cool. It was very unique. Like you're saying, that's a showpiece. That is a unique visual thing that was also a Best Buy exclusive. So I think I do think that they're cool, but like I said, conceptually, I also have the issue of every time I move, I just moved and I've thrown so much stuff away. Yeah,
I used to have way more books, and when I moved from my last apartment to here, I'm like, that's it. Other than this one set of all of an author's books he ever wrote, and I need to hold on to that because it's like a complete thing. Everything else, it's going right in the donation pile. I did keep all my DVDs though.
Yeah, there's always a degree to which you like. Some of this is just stuff, and I don't know how much
But it's nice to have things.
Yeah,
For a time, I got rid of all my DVD cases. I just had everything in one of those.
Big old flip book.
Yeah. And then you kind of think But I kind of want to.
It would be nice.
I want to show it off to myself and nobody else.
Just to walk over and see, like, oh yeah, that's all those. That's that whole series.
Yeah. The other steelbook I have is Mad Max Fury Road. I just bought it on impulse at a store. It's local, but it's also part of a wider chain. If there's one in your town, I highly recommend going. Book Off.
Oh yeah, Book Off.
So they have the largest collection of used steelbook DVDs and Blu-rays I've ever seen in my life. So, Charles,
I'm about to go through building up my collection again.
Podcast field trip. Don't go see Shazam anymore. Let's go buy some steelbook DVDs.
I'm about to dedicate a whole. I've cleared off, like I said, got rid of a bunch of stuff. I'm about to dedicate a whole shelf to just. Here's all the physical media.
Dude, you could spend like 4 hours in that store.
Dude, I haven't been to Book Off in probably 10 years. And last time I was in there, that's exactly what I did. I was just in there for a long time looking at.
Yeah, if I go there with anybody else, I feel bad because I will slowly and painstakingly look through every single aisle of every movie they have. Like, we can go now if you want to. And, because they're being polite, they'll say, no, we can stay. And then I'll stay there for another hour or two.
All right, but that's going to wrap us up for this week. You can find links to these articles in the show notes and at MediaPlayNews.com. And you can subscribe to the site's mailing list using the subscription link in the notes. You can email us directly at MediaPlayNewsPodcast@gmail.com to have your comment featured on the show, or find us on our Twitter account at PodcastMPN. I said that right. That's fine. If you like the show, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. We really appreciate it.
You know what else we appreciate is one of our listeners, Kokenan, saying that our voices sounded crisp from being in studio in person again.
Yeah, our associate editor, Kokenan, just really let us know how much better we sound now. So we're going to keep up the good work. I'm Charles Parkman.
I'm Charlie Sholey.
And we will see you next week.
So whatever we do, just do exactly that.
Just record in person and then let the audio program do its job.
Yeah, I'm an audio engineer. I set the sound to a podcast voice.